here, Mick, why are we sitting on a wall in Dundalk?
Because the extra 4 foot in the air makes all the difference.
Yeah, it does.
You know, you can just swing your legs. Welcome to Dundalk.
Welcome to Fundalk.
Dundalk. We're at Great Northern Distillery and we are going to go look at one of the best pubs that the town has to offer.
Absolutely. And we will learn all about like fun contemporary bars, big distilleries, and how many types of curry sauce there are in Louth.
But I'm not jumping down off this, so I mean...
Well, I will. I'll give you, do you want a hand?
Go on.
Go on. Parkour.
Graceful.
Parkour.
Right, off we go.
Yeah, before we get clamped. Welcome to episode 4 of Poor Decisions. My name is Ronan Collins, or Whiskey for Breakfast.
And my name is Michael Cowman, or The Cowman Show.
Absolutely. And we are in the beautiful town of Dundalk today.
Debatable.
Dundalk, it's actually halfway between Belfast and Dublin, where we both live. And I suppose I would probably have come to Dundalk far more often than you would.
Yeah, I'm certainly not here very often. Why did you come? I mean, you were what, 30 minutes away?
Yeah. Do you know what? There's a place called the Jade Garden. It's like it was a proper fancy Chinese, and mum and dad and my sister used to come here as a treat, like every couple of months.
So there's like no Chinese anywhere closer to you?
Not as fancy as the Jade Garden.
Okay.
They had obviously as a cuisine, they had chopsticks. You know when
nobody had chopsticks.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that was really cool. But I've always known Dundalk as like horse racing and dog racing sort of town. It's in the Cooley Mountains. You've got on the town crest it says the birthplace of Cullen.
That's pretty cool.
Very famous. Yeah. So
I mean, you have some famous people from here. From Louth generally.
Because we are in County Louth today.
Yes, we are definitely in County Louth today. So Rob and Dave Carney. So Rob being
the famous one.
Well, I mean, Dave also played for Leinster.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Right, for like Ireland or...
But I'm pretty sure he still does. Like, you know?
Fair play, Dave. Good man.
But again, I'm not 100% sure. So,
but Rob is that Rob Carney's
from
here, class.
You have the Course, who are very interesting.
Yeah, they love the Course.
They have that song
Breathless, obviously.
Yeah. All the Cranberries hits came into my head there when we're. But the Course quite interesting. I mean, you've all the sisters and Andrea and whatnot, and Jim, who is an interesting individual.
What? How so?
Jim is probably among Ireland's foremost conspiracy theorists. So 9/11 was an inside job. COVID was obviously fake.
Obviously.
And then I think I'm not going to swear that he's a flat earther, but I'm he's on.
You know, it seems like the trifecta there. You know, that's the perfect triangle of.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Like, but the water doesn't fall off.
Just rolls around, mate. Just rolls around. But yeah, so I mean, they're some of the famous people from here. But I guess the more famous thing from Dundalk, and the reason kind of we're here, is that kind of brewing and distilling heritage. So horse racing, brewing, distilling, kind of a town of degenerates, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like the perfect place to party.
Yeah, but what I have for you now is Dundalk's most famous son. So here's a little pint sheen of Harp.
Nice. Oh, a beautiful crystal, golden, fizzy glass of Harp.
Yeah, it's nice to describe it for those who can't see it. So sláinte.
Yeah, sláinte. So Harp is made in Dundalk.
Harp was made in Dundalk. So
okay, back in the day. So
I started kind of doing the research on this as we tend to do before we actually do some research.
Yeah, we do research, yeah.
Not where things are located. But
why would we do that?
Why would we do that? Ridiculous. But Harp. So I thought it was this heritage brand or whatever that had been around since 1886.
Yeah.
But it's actually only invented created in the 1960s. So they created Harp. Lagers were taken off massively in the UK. And so Guinness, it was Guinness at the time, it wasn't Diageo, who we seem to mention every...
We love talking about them every single podcast.
Oh, no, yeah. But anyway, so they come up with Harp as an alternative to some of the ales that they're drinking in the UK, but also the continental lagers that they're starting to become really popular. And so Dundalk starts being made in 1960 in the Great Northern Brewery, as it was at the time, which has since become Great Northern Distillery in 2015.
Which is quite a big deal in distilling.
Quite a big deal in distilling, which we can touch on later on. But since 2015, all the Harp now made is made down in St. James's Gate.
Oh, yeah.
Which will disappoint all your Nordy friends.
Well, we love it up north. Because
why, like?
Well, up north, I don't know whether it was like 5 years ago but in the past couple of years, it's had a resurgent, like Harp lager is like cool, like I think I've sent you their, like, some of their clothing stuff. They've got cool street artists doing it. I don't know if it's always been seen as a cool brand, like, honestly, because I've lived away for so long, but now it's definitely seen as cool.
Well, yeah, I would say that when I see Harp in Dublin, I was down Dorset Street the other day, and like some of the pubs along there would have it, but it'd be rare that you'd see pints of Harp, and I don't know if that's a price-conscious choice or not, because certainly down the south, it's a little bit cheap. It's a little bit cheaper in terms of lager, but it's great lager. But also,
It's grand.
one of the great things about it, you know, and my dad used to say this to me, he was like, Sally O'Brien and the way she might look at you. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I was only recently, somebody mentioned that, and I was like, and then I had to Google it because I hadn't a clue.
Yeah, hadn't a clue, yeah. And so the Harp ads were unhinged, like the 1980s, 1990s ads. I'm going to get, so I queued Dan up for this, right?
Producer Dan getting a shout out today.
So producer Dan and producer Agustina, sorry, not to leave her out. But so here's the scene, right? So the scene is, here's the premise for the Harp ad. It is Blade Runner-esque. It is the 1980s. It's like Terminator coming back from the future, all right? So guy in the future, absolutely gasping for a pint.
Obviously.
And he uses time travel to come back to a pub.
Good use of it.
Good use of time travel, and order a pint of Harp. So he's gone up to the barman.
So he's in like a wee pub, is he?
A little pub, bit of a crowd around. The barman looks at him and he has this little, you know, a time machine on his shoulder, and he goes, "Oh, you're not from around, are you not? You're on holidays." And your man goes, "Oh, I'm actually from the future." And so cue that bit, all right? Dan, you ready to kick?
Well,
okay.
I'm excited to see this. Go on.
Go on.
I'd like to try your hop lager, please.
Never tried it. I'd be right in saying that you're on holiday, sir.
No, I'm from the future.
And how did you manage that then, sir?
With my orb.
Why got it? You're from the future. That's your time machine. And I'm Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, and pigs will fly.
He is a famous Irish person.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole. So there's a pig flying around, a puppet pig flying around. Oh, there goes the orb over to the guy.
Lawrence, give us a pint of Harp and a packet of dips, please.
Hop lager. Seriously, good beer.
So we can cut it there. For anyone who didn't see that, describe to me what you just saw, Ron.
So outside of all the spaceman and the beautiful frosty pint of lager, that last bit here, Lawrence, give us a pint of beer and whatever.
Packet of dates.
Packet of dates, which is mad. It was like, I'm looking at like a puppet drunk camel who's obviously been smoking, pop his head out through the hatch from behind the bar and order off Lawrence Arabia. So it's quite multifaceted. He was obviously eavesdropping in their conversation.
There is a lot going. Well, maybe the guy is Lawrence of Arabia. That's the whole thing.
Oh,
you know. So, but I think for anybody who hasn't seen this ad, it is a quintessential part of that kind of 1980s, 1990s Irish folklore that, like, oh yeah, packet of dates and a pint of Harp. Yeah, and like, we're too old. We were kind of kicking this around. I was kicking this around beforehand, and the guy who was fixing the coffee machine in here, who was a little bit older than us, was like, oh yeah, iconic, mate, iconic.
No way.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
So if we did pub snacks and we did a packet of dates, we wouldn't have a clue, but people would know.
I don't know. I think that's more of a nod to Lawrence of Arabia than people eating dates in the pub.
Oh right, I don't know much about Lawrence, but that is so chaotic. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of just looking at Harp ads now.
So, why are we in Dundalk?
Because we digressed there. Not just to watch YouTube videos. We're in Dundalk because today's venue is Mo Chara. Pretty new bar on the scene. It's a couple of years old. Run by three lads, which hopefully we're going to talk to in a wee bit. But Mo Chara is...
means my friend in Irish?
It does, yeah. Well done. But yeah, so Mo Chara, it's like a modern contemporary bar. It's one of those bars we're talking about in Ireland. It's definitely not a pub. You know, they do like sourdough pizza. They've got their own beer. They've got cocktails on tap. They've got an ever-changing keg selection. They have a music venue. They have a cool area upstairs. But like everything about it's cool. The brand's cool.
But it's in Dundalk.
Yeah, it's in Dundalk, but
Let's go wrangle Killian up, and is it Killian's going to talk to us?
Killian's going to talk to us now about Dundalk. So let's go grab him, and we'll hear more about it all.
Super.
Deadly. Welcome to Dundalk.
Hi.
Right, lads. What do you say?
There he is. I'll get rid of these.
Proper, look. Bit of alcohol.
Killian, welcome to the Poor Decisions podcast. Have a little sup in the can there, get yourself settled in.
Of course, cheers, lads.
Cheers,
Thanks a million,
cheers.
boys. Thanks for
Snort it.
coming down.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
So, I guess, do a little interview. And like I said, at the end, every week we do the Room 101. So, what would you get rid of from the drinks industry? So, first question, and I guess the one everybody out there is probably asking, did you just pick the cheapest place in the country to open a pub, or what was that?
Come on, lads. You can't be disrespecting the town like that. No, I suppose myself and the two lads, we're all from the town, from Dundalk. Yeah, come on, the town and all that. Like, you often, like, when you're growing up, you're thinking of, you know, opening probably in Dublin and in bigger cities. But I think when you go away, you sort of come back to the town, you always appreciate things more. And, like, we know everyone here, that's friends, family, you know. And we actually were able to do something, probably maybe something like this exists already in the cities and that, but in the town it probably hadn't been done yet, so we're doing something a bit more.
Totally understand, because myself and Ronan both from small towns, and yeah, we'd love if there was something like this existed. I'm only messing.
But like kind of reeling back, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Mo Chara's smashing it. It looks class, and it's not just you. Like there are a couple of the other lads, which we're going to be chatting to in a wee bit. But like, where did it kind of all start? Where's the epicenter of it all? We know you worked for Jameson in India, but like, where did it all start?
Yeah, so I suppose the three of us are childhood friends.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're probably 12 or 13. We're in a bigger group of friends. Myself and Vino, we're both Mulligans. We're not related at all, but we met each other at an assessment day for secondary school. So because
And then went drinking cans.
Exactly, because of alphabetical order, they put us sitting beside each other. And Vino wouldn't really be the brightest spark in the bunch, you know. So he was actually leaning over for me, looking at the answers for the assessment test, and then he got into a higher class. I don't know, me after finishing his thing. So I suppose then we met Paul a couple of years later. We were friends, like with a bigger group, and yeah, we used to go drinking in fields and the whole lot for years. And then I suppose we all done our leaving cert. I think it was the last day. There was an hour before the CEO applications were up or whatever, and we were all sitting around. I think we were hungover from the night before, and we all decided we were all going to go to Galway. So there was about
The graveyard of ambition. as it's
exactly,
called,
yeah.
So I take it like chaos just started, and it just kind of
From that, it never stopped. Yeah.
Class.
So we all went to Galway. Myself and Paul actually done the same course, international commerce, and then Vino done arts. We loved partying, the whole lot. We loved drinking, the crack, whatever else, and. We got talking. We got into, I suppose, beer and craft beer more so, and the idea was to start a brewery. I think basically around the last year of college, we had a little group chat going. We were getting ideas flowing and what we liked and what we didn't like.
what was the group chat called? Can you remember?
It was called Mo Chara.
Oh,
As
right,
far
okay.
back as then,
Okay.
yeah. So
I thought you were going to say something that we couldn't actually air.
yeah.
Because we've all been in those group chats.
Yeah. So it was called Mo Chara. So as far back as that, like. I suppose like it's kind of like a Dundalk saying. Seen a couple of movies. You probably know Man with Dog and stuff like that. Yeah, but
Who shouldn't be van?
yeah. But I suppose people, and it fitted us because we're three friends. It's a saying from Dundalk, and we basically wanted to create something like a community that was like a place to come for your friends. That didn't feel like a pub. That it was just something that everyone could come lounge around, have the crack in, and that was the idea of the name. So I finished in Galway, and I joined the Jameson program. So you two boys were there before me, and so you don't know where you're going, obviously, until they let you know.
Life.
Yeah, anywhere.
We're still not sure.
So I was in Vietnam for the summer. I already know that I got the job, but they don't tell you which market for a while. So I think it was 3 months in Vietnam, and just before I came home, they were like, right, you're starting next month, and you're heading to India. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. I was sort of trying to put on a brave face, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great, you know, I can't wait." But honestly, I was shitting myself, like. But
I'd say you were after a while, anyway.
yeah. after being in Vietnam and Asia for the summer, I was thinking, Jesus, this is like, it's going to be even madder than that, you know? So came home for a month, went out to India straight away, just loved it. Like every bit of it fucking, sorry.
You can say
curse,
Say whatever you want.
There's only one word you're not allowed to
And you
say.
can guess which one that is, like, you know. You can
What's
go on,
that?
guess.
It begins with C.
COVID.
No, as Jim Core says, that doesn't exist in
Yeah,
Dundalk.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Love it.
But so yeah, went out to India. I was there for 2 years, and then Paul applied for the Jameson job. He done a master's, so he was in Galway a year longer than me. He applied for it, and then they sent him out to India as well. So he replaced me in Bangalore. They moved me up to Mumbai, and yeah, we had great crack over there.
But that was the reports of anyone who was over there. Like, it was Bangalore was quite a craft beer city. Like, there was a load of craft beer and there was good crack. Like,
Yeah, that's sort of where we got like inspired for something like that. I think there's over 100 microbreweries in Bangalore, so nearly every pub is a microbrewery that brews their own beer. It's all full of like American brewers and European brewers and stuff coming over. So that was sort of where I got thinking more so about what sort of style we would do Mo Chara in. And as I said, originally we thought we wanted to start a brewery. We quickly found out we didn't have enough money, and we thought that we'd go the other way about it. Start a community, a place first, build brands build fans of the brand, and then go the opposite way about it. So we're still hoping to get our own brewery up and running again soon. So I suppose we, after India, at the time then Vinno was at home. He done a master's in DKIT, so he was doing a bit of market research in Dundalk and a few nights out and that.
is that what you call it?
That's what it is, yeah. He worked in a great bar up the town. The bartender, he's probably heard of it. It's a great craft beer bar as well. So he sort of learned his trade there, and he done a thesis then in craft beer in marketing. So that's what he was doing while we were over in India. And then just before COVID started, I had applied actually for a job then in Dundalk Bay Brewery here locally, and I thought the best thing to do instead of working for a big brand like Jameson, if we wanted to do my own thing, was to come back home, do something in a smaller scale where you're sort of doing a little bit of everything. That was the idea behind the brewery. And then I'd say maybe 6 months later, we were looking to add to the sales and marketing team, so we took in the two boys, Paul and Vinno.
Nepotism.
Yeah, nepotism, yeah.
That's what that is.
So the three of us were cruising about. We put Brewmaster on almost nearly every pub, and it was more so off trade at the time. So we were in like 200 accounts. So we really got stuck into really trying to build that brand as, sort of a trial run, but also we were enjoying it, and we wanted to help out a local business as well at the time.
To be fair to you, I remember I was working the trade at the time, and I remember seeing Brewmaster, and I was like, where is this come from? Like, I don't know, this was down in like a random off license down in Dublin, and I was like, why is this here? So you were obviously doing a good job.
Yeah, we were busy. Like, there's a few people thought it was owned by Diageo and stuff because it was that much. It was everywhere. We were rootless, there's a couple of reports of us like moving other beers out of the way and stuff. Yeah. You have to do those sort of things,
Absolutely. And like the whole like Mo Chara like feel and vibe. There's a lot of beer here, like from the fridges to the chalkboards, and like I take it your love for beer hasn't just disappeared now.
No, definitely not. Like, that's still our core focus. It always will be. Like, I think we've 32 taps on there at the minute, so I
like 32. A good rhyme.
Yeah. No reason behind it or anything. No, Mo Chara and all that. But most of them are rotating. We have our own house beers, and we focus around craft beer, and that was the idea. It's something. Everything here is casual. We're even the way we serve our food. We'll get into that in a bit with Paul and try our pizza. But the idea was that you can come in a pair of shorts, or even looking like Michael here or whatever.
I'm a very hot asset these days.
True.
He's captain.
Yeah, captain here. But you could come in, wearing whatever you like, a t-shirt, shorts.
I won't be made fun of on my own podcast.
But that was the idea. So that whole casual vibe and set and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and you're smashing it. And it's like got three different, very different look and feel. It's like in here, it's like very much the classic old school aesthetic, but with a modern contemporary twist. And obviously the offering. Then you've got the beer garden, the stage, the cut in half fate. And then you've got upstairs, which is very cool and like more what you would see in kind of big cities.
Yeah, like I suppose we were really lucky with the building. It was built in 1902. There's some cool stories about it.
Is it haunted?
It is definitely haunted. Yeah.
Every building is haunted.
Yeah, every
like.
pub I think is.
Get onto the marketing department there. Where's the ghost?
Yeah. There's a couple of stories. One barman, he used to leave with the last customer, like during the 80s and 90s. He'd never stay here. It's a good excuse if you don't want to clean up. He thought it was properly haunted. So yeah, it's built in 1902. It's proper, like, I don't even know what you would call the style of the building outside.
Hogwarts?
Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a bit of a tower outside.
There is, yeah.
That's a turret, so there's some history behind that. There was an RUC man who owned the building, so now you're talking about Mo Chara and the whole lot, but Michael Collins was due to come up this street.
Who?
You ever hear
Your
of him?
first
So he was due to come up the street, and there was a sniper set up in the turret to plan to assassinate him, and he took a turn different way. So it never happened that day, but...
How'd things turn out for him in the end?
You'll have to watch the movie, yeah. But yeah, there's a couple other cool stories. So before we had even, I don't even think we had signed the lease. We had agreed to everything. Probably shouldn't be saying all this, but we were in.
It's grand. Nobody watches this.
Yeah, no one watches this crap. We were in here, you know, we got a keg. I think it was our first keg in, and we had all our mates in painting the walls and the whole lot. And we probably had a few too many pints. And we were sort of standing outside. I don't know why, but there was two old men, probably in their 80s, and they said, "This is the best spot in Dundalk to get a taxi home. We get a taxi home here every Friday night from here." I said, "These two fellas are nuts." But they were like, "We could tell you a story or two about that place in there." So I was, "Go on ahead." So if you see this floor, you'll have to do a close-up to it. It's terrazzo floor, so it was put in 1906, but it was Italians that came over to do the cathedral across the road.
Here, that, and loads did that in Belfast as well.
Really,
There's
yeah.
pubs, there's a couple of pubs in Belfast, and I actually just thought that was like
just-
a lie that we just tell the tourists.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah.
No, but I feel like once you hear it twice, it's
definitely.
must be
fact.
gospel, like.
Yeah.
I think they were just in here having a few pints. They probably had a little bit left over, and it was a wee nixer, you know,
So
wee
yeah,
side
well,
hustle.
that's what I was going to ask. Was it left overflowing, or were they
I think it's
just
left
yeah.
overflowing. So here, and then they done the Market Bar in the square in the dock here as well. So we all had the same floor. But yeah, a couple of cool stories like that about the history of the building. But like, yeah, I suppose then the pub that was here the last sort of 10, 15 years, it wasn't going as well. It was probably more so you classify as an old man's pub or whatever. It just needed a whole new lease of life because we're the most photographed building in Dundalk. So people
After the
come-
Jade Garden,
After the
obviously.
Jade Garden, yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the Jade Garden. That's the second time it's come. I'm going for it. Can I
Is
get
it
a 3
hungry
in 1?
lads? Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
get a 5 in 1?
It's a bit more
No,
upmarket though.
it's
I
they
don't know
don't
if
even
do
have
that.
numbers beside the
Right.
dishes. You have to actually.
no pictures like.
No, jeez, no.
It's a bit like Joe's.
Another local institution.
Yeah.
It just the building needed a new lease of life. That's what everyone said. It needed new ideas. So we pitched ideas to the owners, and there was competition for the lease, obviously, because it's such a iconic building. And they had actually gone with a proprietor that he owns 3 or 4 bars around town. They'd agreed to them. We wrote a big essay basically as to what we were going to do differently and how we changed things and why it didn't work in the past and why what we were going to do would work. And the real estate agent, I suppose, he rang us up. He said, "I don't know what you said there, but they're after doing a complete U-turn." So we were like, we thought it was a big sort of prank on us that we were just still might be, but we're claiming it wasn't.
How long are you here now? 2?
We're here 2 years, coming up on our second birthday, yeah. So
Class.
like it just goes, you sort of see it evolutionize, over the 2 years that it started off. It was just absolutely mental, it was like everyone was just out of COVID. It was, a lot of people looking to party. It was nearly like a nightclub, and then since our food has gotten really, really popular, and we started opening then during the day. So we're open from 11 for coffee, sambos and eggs. So even just seeing that clientele change and the average age has come up, like we're getting all our neighbours here, solicitors and accountants coming in for grub during the day to see then, it's actually a really nice place. And then they come back after work, drinks and stuff like that. So it's great to see it, keep growing and
It really
developing.
creates like a hub in the community. And obviously, at first glance, you'd be like, it's cool. It's probably a bit hipstery. It's full of like
People that look like Ronan.
all artsy, really
Back when he had
good
the long
look.
hair.
Ryan Reynolds. But like that quality of service and the quality of food obviously brings in everybody, and it's so good for the community. You know, like we would have absolutely killed to have somewhere like this when we were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I probably wouldn't, you know. But now, I think I would appreciate.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, do you do €3 shots of tequila?
Did the whole lot, yeah. They're €6 though. But like, I think it helps. The three of us are here all the time. It creates, you know, an atmosphere, and we care about it. Obviously, like we wanted to have the casual style of, you know, something like a Bernard Shaw, but we wanted the drinks to be exceptional. Like we didn't feel like you don't have to do a dive bar quality to drinks or whatever. Not that the Bernard Shaw or anyone does, but we just wanted Yeah. But I suppose like the beer garden is sort of the jewel in the crown. There's 150 seats out there. Like, as I said, stage, live music, Beetle bar out there. And then upstairs then is your more kind of relaxed, kind of more foodie area, a little bit more of a restaurant style. It was an old Italian restaurant up there called Quaglino's. So that's back when the pub was going really well. There was a guy called Pat Carley. He was a famous restaurateur. And he was one of the first people to bring in fresh Italian produce into Dundalk. People used to sort of travel from all around then to come in here. So we've upstairs is kind of as an honour.
And the Italian, you'd be travelling down for that.
I tell you,
It works.
So you came, you saw, you conquered, all that
Something
kind of
like
jazz.
that. Yeah.
We ask everyone this question. That Room 101 style, is there anything in the drinks industry? It can be physical, it can be a person as well.
It can be Ronan.
Used to is probably.
But is there anything that you just want to get rid of that you think should just be dead and buried in the world of drinks?
I seen you asking this question, so I have a couple of things. I don't know if I'm allowed to
You're
steal
allowed to,
influence.
yeah,
Yeah.
go for it,
yeah.
Number one, vapes. They're like the 2023 condom wrappers. Like it was COVID masks. Now it's bloody vapes. But even the boxes, people just leaving them lying around, throwing them in pint glasses.
Oh.
It's a mess, yeah. And Vino is the main culprit for it. Yeah. But as well as that, dashes. You know, like dashes of
A dash of blackcurrant or something.
dash of
Dash of-
blackcurrant,
yeah.
dash of orange dilute or white lemonade or red lemonade. Like just fucking pain in the head.
But like in a beer or just like...
No, like even just vodka dash. You know, like we're in Dundalk. We have to brainwash people to try to get them away from those old style drinks.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're gonna ban them.
Because you do have
Yeah,
cocktails
we're gonna
on
ban.
tap as well. Like so, it's not like you don't have a great offering of drinks. But so Dash, have you
gone.
banned it yet?
Not yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Like because like.
Are you charging
the,
for it?
The main reason, yeah, we're charging plenty. Yeah, it's not free. But the main reason I think we haven't banned is my mother drinks Southern Comfort and red lemonade. And you can't get red lemonade in a small bottle or
No, you can't. You have to go for the big
so
one. But
I think that's my two main gripes there.
two,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, and we on the Dash one, we'll come back in a couple of months to see if you've actually stuck
If
to
we
your word
changed
on
it,
that
yeah.
one. I think they're brilliant. They add to the tapestry of
you
hatred.
have.
The fabric of, yeah.
The 101 room. Well, here, Killian, thanks, man.
Cheers,
We
lads.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thanks for calling down.
Cheers.
Thanks a million.
Sláinte.
Best of luck with the podcast. Yeah, thank you.
And well, we're going to keep chatting, and in a bit we're going to try some of your more delicate pizza numbers. Your delicacies.
Don't think you want to call it delicate, do you?
No, I don't know. But yeah, thanks, man.
Brilliant. Thanks, my lads. Best of luck. Yeah, top man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks very
Suppose
much.
you want rid of me
boy.
now, yeah?
Ah, if you could, yeah, because we're the stars.
Cheers.
Right, well, that was. I learned actually more about Dundalk than I thought I would.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is lots to learn, and apparently they don't like you slagging off Dundalk.
No, they definitely don't. Dundalk, it was an old fort town as well.
Oh, really?
So that
Was
would
it, yeah?
make sense about the turrets.
And fellas shooting lads off the...
Well, he didn't shoot.
He didn't shoot.
He didn't shoot. We're going to stick to that story. Definitely want to bottle up some of that Killian energy. You know?
It is a lot. It is a lot. I feel like it's contained in this tiny little can.
Quite a large can.
Man, we're talking about contemporary bars. We're talking about contemporary service, I guess, and the things that make that bar pub differential that we always talk about. And I know one of the things you're very passionate about is service and that element of service from working in 5-star establishments. And what does that actually mean?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question because, again, everything we have spoken about over the past couple of episodes has been based around different venues, pub versus bar, but you can still have epic service, whether that's 5-star or dive bar, you can still have the top level of service. And I think it's quite interesting in Ireland because we are currently going through that shift, but the service level can still be pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
Do you ever remember somewhere that you had, that was the best service I've ever had in my life, hands down?
Yeah, so I remember when I lived in Johannesburg, there was a bar, one of the world's top 50, was around the corner from the house. And it was funny because you walk in.
And in Johannesburg
And in
as well,
Johannesburg, yeah. And like there's not a huge amount of bars that would make the world's top 50 on the continent of Africa. If they are, they're in South Africa. And we were told about this bar, right? So one of the lads tells us about this bar. And we were walking down this dark alley in Johannesburg, and I was like, I am about to get murdered. And we go in, and it's a bar called Sin and Tax, so it's a world's top 50. And we go in, we sit at the bar, and the bartender's chatting away to us. Then, just putting water up in front of us, a little bit of popcorn, or chatting to us while we were taking a drink. And it was so subtle, and there was nothing, I don't think there's anything really, oh my God, this is mind-blowing. But it's those kind of little touches of, and every time you finish the water, there's more water, having a few cocktails, they're giving you a little bit of chat, and then they leave you alone to go away. So for me, it was the first time I'd gone, oh, that was really quite exceptional service. I really felt like I was a guest, I suppose, as opposed to just a...
Yeah.
No, but genuinely, like as opposed to just a customer going, what do you want? Right, here's your pint.
Go on now.
Yeah, get away from me.
Yeah, here, give me your money.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the interesting thing out of all of those, like, because you never even mentioned the drinks or the menu or the concept, which I know you probably thought were brilliant anyway, but like how all those steps of service like kind of made you feel. And
But that's it. It's not what they did, it's how they made you feel.
exactly.
Because that's what at the end of the day you remember. So like for you,
Yeah, no, but like pulling that apart, like the water is an interesting one.
Okay.
Because you said they put the water down, and some people do snacks, some people don't do snacks, and some people like them, and some people don't. But the water for me is such an interesting part of really good service because the size of the water glass will matter. So
go on.
yeah, I know, yeah. So in the hotel I worked at in London, ours were like a small to medium-sized water glass. And part of that was because people would drink their water, and without us going back being like, hey, folks, can I get you anything? Or do you want to reorder? Or any of this stuff, it just meant we had to go over and just fill up their water. Now, we would try to do it as seamlessly as possible, like so they almost wouldn't see us, but enough that if somebody did want to reorder or ask us a question, we were there because it could be every 5 minutes or...
And it's non-intrusive.
Exactly,
I guess.
yeah. And you're just topping up the water. Now, I also have heard that some people do it and it does kind of intrude, but I think the premise of it is actually important. So it's obviously hydration, but it's just, you're just touching the table. You're like, hey, kind of if you need, because there's nothing worse when you do want something and you're looking around, you can't get anybody. You want to order more drinks.
Well, I think for me that's like a nice balance, because sometimes when I go to the States, I feel like it's overly serviced.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone.
It is intense though, isn't it?
It can be quite intense because obviously there are, a lot of the, bartenders and people in the service industry are working for tips more so than anything. So they won't need to make sure you are happy at all stages. But it is funny how much of a different culture it can tend to be.
Yeah, and over here we can flip to the other side.
Where it's like, I'll see you in half an hour. Best
Yeah,
luck.
and then even if you go onto the continent, so like Italy and France, they're so chilled about service. It's very good service, but don't be in a rush.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they're giving you...
Because we're certainly
Yeah,
not.
exactly. Yeah. Mañana. But no, that they're super important. There's like a book called Setting the Table by Daniel Mayer, and a lot of high-end service would have either read it or referenced it quite a lot. And again, I'm not saying everyone has to follow these exact steps, but, just doing those little touches does help a long way.
Because it's not one size fits all. Because I think culturally, a lot of things can be quite different. I remember I was in Texas once, and there was 8 or 10 of us over on a trip, and the bartender was like, "Do you want to start a tab, lads?" And we were like, "What? Why would we give you our credit card? And
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, but more or less, it was that distrust. Now, this is probably 7-8 years ago, so I think we'd be more open to that now. Whereas at the time, I was like, "What?" And similarly, he was really annoyed that we wouldn't just give him and start a tab and we just split it up at the end. Like he had to transact every single drink.
Which is what we do here. Like we go stand at the bar, order at the bar, pay, and sit down. Because in Ireland, typically we don't do very well with table service in bars.
I mean, COVID was an interesting introduction to table service for a lot of bars and pubs as well.
Oh, mate, I can imagine.
But it probably requires more people, more staff as well, I guess.
Yeah, it does. But I think that there's a nice balance. Not everyone does table service, but if you're sitting at a table, a lot of venues will be like, well, that's table service. Whereas if you're standing at the bar, be like, cool, well, the staff at the bar can just serve you. And that there's like efficient, but it also allows for like control of environment, control of like the vibe as well, because good staff will control the feel of it. Not everywhere has to be like a hip hop joint. Sometimes it's super like prestige and finesse, but it's the staff who have to deliver that.
So where for you is like, in the same way as I'm like, oh, this bar in Johannesburg, and that one sticks out to me because it was the first time I'd gone, oh, this was particularly exceptional. Where for you sticks out?
Yeah, do you know what? I have a couple. I'm very lucky, but one of them in particular is a place in Mexico City called Puyol, and
Like the footballer.
yeah,
You know, like
Yeah.
Barcelona. Yeah, Carlos Puyol.
I know that sports reference.
Man the town.
He used to play for Man United.
No, that's Busquets.
Oh no, I know Puyol had the curly hair.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, he was a legend. So I think it was called Puyol. Puyol? Maybe I've just anyway.
Let's carry
So
on.
this Mexican restaurant, and me and my ex were going there, but it was quite like high up in the lists. And
Why did that relationship break down on?
it was quite high up in the list, and there was like the fine dining element, but there is a 12-course taco menu if you sit at the bar.
Okay.
Right, unbelievable.
Yeah. This is some people's dream, I think.
Oh, I can imagine, right? So we hooked up a few of our contacts, and they were like, "I've got you 2 seats, but you have to sit at the bar. But it's for the taco course." And I was like, "That sounds even better." So anyway, we get there, and no one there knew that like we were in the drinks industry or who we were.
Because sometimes you definitely get special service when
100%. And you definitely do, and you get looked after. So we sat down, and then the bartender serves you all of these, and he was just like, you have 3 drink offerings, or maybe you had 4, but you had, paired with your tacos, you could either go local mezcal, local craft beer, non-alcoholic, or he was like, for you, like if you're a couple, you can mix and match.
Okay.
We were like, cool. So I was like, we'll do one of the mezcal and one of the local beers. He didn't register that with us. He was just like, I like that. We were like, cool, we've ordered really well. And he just gave us all of the mezcal, but then the crappy local beer. But we had been out in Mexico City that night or the night before, hit it really hard.
So a can and a shot kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
but with high-end mezcal. Ended up in this really mad dive bar at like 6 a.m. We were like, oh, we've seen this before. And he's like, how have you ever seen this? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, only the locals drink this. And we were like, oh. And we told him where we were. And he was like, that's really cool. We were like, great. I started drinking the mezcal. And there was a lot of people around there who didn't really drink mezcal. You could almost see from them. So he kept giving me and my ex more and more. We kind of started talking. Next course came out. The food was exceptional. And he was like, do you want to see the kitchen? A Michelin level taco kitchen. I was like, absolutely. Went there and it was mind blowing. The chef just shut the whole kitchen down to say hello to us, like explain who they were, clicked his fingers, kitchen went back up again. And it was madness. He, in his perfect like service, we finished every single bottle of mezcal that day. I had to like have a time out.
Oh, I would think so, yeah.
It was insane because I think however many courses, like, and then he was like, oh, by the way, do you want to have your last few courses outside? I've never had this in like a restaurant before where they have allowed us just to move. So we ended up going out. Only a couple of us went out underneath the terrace, like all these plants around us. And he was like, just sit there. There's a couple more drinks for you. And he was like, it's all included. And I was like, and then my card didn't work, obviously, because it's Mexico. And they were like, oh, don't worry. Somebody like gave me a lift to the nearest couple of banks, came back, and they're like, oh, what a day we have had. Here's a tea for you. And I was like, mind-blowing service.
Could you imagine in Ireland if at the end of that your card didn't work?
Yeah, I actually was really like, oh my God.
Yeah, because you almost feel indebted to them as well,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Obviously, you owe them money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when the service is that good, you're like, oh, like they've gone out of their way here for me, and I have no money.
And I mean, I was like, my temperature was rising. I was also steaming. But that was one of the best service experiences I've ever had. And we weren't even in the fine dining part of that.
Yeah.
But I think that level of service can come through in like the classic pint bar. What do we call it? Like pint bar pub service.
It's a pub, like, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a pub, Ronan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's not the typical, it's not the norm of what we see here. And depending on the bar, depending on the occasion, depending on the time of day, it can vary wildly. So I mean, if you're in a pub at 12 o'clock on a Friday night, don't expect to be,
Yeah, exactly. And we are kind of, I suppose, to kind of bookend this, we're not saying that in some of these pubs that are high volume that this has to be done. Like, you have to put water with everyone. Like, that's not possible. Or like, one thing actually I meant to mention, in that hotel we worked at, we would have different size napkins or different shaped napkins would have been placed down. So we knew that the diamond one, which obviously was just a square the other way, was for the water, and the one that was placed as a square was for the drink. So we always knew which napkin was which. So if there was one missing, we were like, oh, somebody doesn't have a drink, or somebody's dropped their water.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're sorry just to go back, but we're not saying that at Christmas every busy bar.
I think sometimes if I'm paying 16 or 17 euro for a cocktail, I would like some decent service.
100%. I think when you're paying that high end premium, you really should.
I think the one you have referenced me before, funnily enough. So every Christmas for the last 3 years, 2 years, two years.
This year will be third.
This year will be the third year. So we do a thing.
Seshmas
We've christened it, which is kind of lame, but at the same time, it's good crack. So we pick a day every Christmas. We go to one of the Dublin's early houses, and just take a day off work, or you just. Whatever.
I turn up.
So take a day off work and just go out at like 8:30 in the morning, go to one of Dublin's early houses. And the last couple of years, we've done a couple of different distilleries around Dublin, a couple of the historic pubs and whatever, and just gone out and had the crack for the day. And Dublin around Christmas time is a nice place to be.
It is magical. There's always the chance you might see Bono playing on Grafton Street or something. But yeah, like the service we always get in that early house. And for those who don't know, an early house is exactly what it says in the tin. Pretty much open 22 hours of the day.
So yeah, exactly. They open. They're historical licenses that were given out, particularly in port towns and port cities, that allow the pubs to open beyond the remit of what are the traditional drinking hours. So, for example, when I used to live in Cork, there's quite a lot because Cork is maritime. It's a maritime city, so there's quite a lot in Cork. I mean, the famous one in Cork is Charlie's. Which is a Chinese in Dublin.
We've been there. Another story.
But in Cork, Charlie's is famous because the UCC students every year around Christmas time, you will see queues down the street trying to get in because it is an early house. They're like, similarly, they'll be like, cool, we want to go on the launch at 8 o'clock in the morning. Where do we go? Well, we go to Charlie's.
It's the only place that's open. And a lot of shift workers will use it in Dublin.
Yeah, so like nurses, doctors, all those kind of professions. And so, yeah, when we go in at Christmas and at 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah, 8:30. You're usually always there before me because I come down from Belfast, and I must admit, the service is always impeccable for what we expect.
Yeah.
Like, it's 8:30 in the morning, we've ordered a few pints of Guinness, it's Christmas, so you know that they've worked like late nights before that. And we usually order a couple of pints of stout and a whiskey or two, or I think last year we had like a hot toddy and an Irish coffee and stuff. And they're always that impeccably balanced ratio of like, they're ready when we need to order. They kind of maybe throw a food menu down. When we finish a drink, there's probably another, like, quick, do you need anything? But they're never there to annoy us because at 8:30 in the morning, kind of looking at the time scale and the service that's expected, 8:30 in the morning, if you're there to drink, we were obviously there to converse. They're not coming over to be like, what are you up to? How's your day been? Because that's the wrong time.
Well, I mean, let's be honest about these venues as well. Sometimes, if you have people going in drinking at 7 o'clock in the morning, that pretends that is a certain crowd as well sometimes.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah, leave me alone. Don't speak to me. I am just here to drink.
But the service was great.
It was great.
Every year, last year when we got the Irish coffees, 8:30 in the morning.
Because I've asked for Irish coffees in places before, and I've been told where to go.
Exactly. And it even came with the spoon and a wee chocolate, and like, did we want nutmeg or chocolate on top? And this is legit an early house, so that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And there was every now and again a wee old school snack menu just put on the table.
And I think old school leads us nicely on to what I have for you today.
Oh yes, snack wise.
So we're going to go to Mick's Pyramid of Snacks.
Mick's Pyramid of Snacks.
So old school snacks.
Old school snacks.
So I was just in the bathroom here earlier, and there was a sticker on the bathroom door that said, Dundalk will never die, but you will. And I feel the same about the snack I'm going to introduce you to this
So
week.
I don't know what this is at all.
So, grab it here. Do you know what it is now?
Oh. Well, I assume this is like a pickled egg.
This is a pickled egg. This is a
pickled-
jar of pickled eggs.
Look at that. Like, there's no lid. Like, where do you even buy that?
I made it.
What?
You can't. So, a couple of weeks ago, when we were planning all this out, I went to Tesco to buy them because it said Tesco had them. Tesco did not have pickled eggs. So I looked up a recipe, and they're remarkably straightforward. Now, they may kill you because, botulism and whatnot, but don't worry about that. But yeah, pickled eggs.
So homemade Cowman's pickled eggs.
Yeah.
What?
Cow eggs.
Cow eggs.
They're plucking delicious.
Clucking delicious.
Yeah, or plucking.
Plucking, but you don't pluck an egg.
You pluck a chicken, though.
But you don't pluck eggs from a chicken.
You could if you wanted to. But
I like it. Cow eggs.
so, I mean, pickled eggs, right? So, the history of pickled eggs. So, who does the pickling? So, German saloons
Of course.
in the US, but Germans are known for their pickling prowess.
Yeah, like sauerkraut.
Yeah,
and
all that kind of
yeah.
fermented stuff.
Yeah, they love a wee bit of fizzy food.
So when German immigrants, so the largest ethnic group in the US is actually German Americans. Right?
right.
So number two is Irish Americans. Currently, the statistics may have changed slightly. Yeah, so 1700s, German saloons, pickled eggs. Right. So if you have ever watched The Simpsons, on the bar in Mo's, always a jar of pickled eggs.
Yeah.
I said, let's branch out a little bit. We've done snacks, we've done McCoys, we've done whatever. Pickled egg.
And do you know what? Yeah, I can see bars, old school bars still, or maybe even contemporary bars still offering a pickled egg.
I wonder.
You really thought outside the box in this one.
Yeah, you know the way you can do a pickleback? Which
Yeah.
is, what is it? It's whiskey and a shot of pickle juice.
Yeah.
I assume you could do it. No, we're not going to do that today.
Thank God.
Yeah, because I'm not. So you have to leave them for at least 2 weeks. So anywhere between 2 weeks and 3 months is your kind of, apparently your sweet spot on pickled eggs.
Nice. Do we just eat? I take it they're hard boiled. Like I won't
Yeah,
bite
yeah.
into it. Okay, grand. Right, let's.
Well, you might. I don't know.
Oh, don't be telling me that. Don't be telling me that now. Don't be telling me that.
So I have a little
Oh,
fork.
you definitely smelled them.
Well, my favourite part is going to be Augustina trying
Mate.
these later on.
I'm not squeamish, and I do like fermented pickle and stuff, but I wasn't expecting that waft.
Come out, you little bollocks.
So what are the stuff floating in them?
That's just peppercorns and coriander seeds. So peppercorn, coriander seeds, some sugar, vinegar. And as you can see, it's taken on a slightly brown colour.
Yeah.
So I'll let you get yours up first there.
You do have to kind of fish them out a wee
Yeah,
bit,
you do.
don't you?
You don't
Is that a
want
wee bay leaf in there
Oh,
as
it's
well?
a bay leaf as well. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So cheers.
Cheers.
This will be your favourite so far. They're certainly pickled.
They are definitely pickled.
Dan, do you have a bin?
Yeah, that was it. That was
Here,
interesting.
Just leave it there.
Do you know what?
It's not that bad.
No, absolutely not. It just tastes like an egg that has been left out for a long, long time.
And covered in vinegar.
Yeah, because the outside of it was a wee bit
Vinegary?
dry and vinegary. Like my mouth.
But think about it this way, right? So you're into training. You were in the pub. You've been on the sesh all day. Maybe you'd gone training that morning. You need to up your protein intake.
Yeah.
What's better than a pickled egg?
I'll start listing better things. That's like Rocky. He used to drink the raw egg. We all thought he was mad, but he probably tried pickling and was like, I think the raw egg is better.
That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. You absolutely screwed the pooch on that one.
I thought I was right.
Yes, so pickled eggs. So what's your opinion? So what do we have so far? We've the snack bar. We've McCoy's at the top. We've the snack bar. We've bacon fries. Or
Yeah.
sorry, snacks. It was bacon fries, then the snack bar. So snack bar's in third place.
Yeah, I think from me, obviously, I'll let you do your own pyramids. But I think for he went in for a second bite. I think you're just doing that just to be like, I love them. I made them cow eggs. I think as a snack, and we looked at the snack bar on this one, I think this goes to the bottom. I'm not saying all pickled eggs, I'm sure there's different pickling style.
Hold on, you're not saying, so you're slagging off my pickled eggs?
Specifically, we have to just judge what's in front of us on the day. And
I think that's a fair point.
I would rather every other one of the snacks
Than my pickled eggs.
Yeah.
My grandmother will be very upset. This is an old family recipe.
And it should stay in the past.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
I think if somebody brought me down now, to be honest, I did expect it to taste a little bit better than it did. Because I like
It's
fermented
just so
stuff.
chalky. Why does it feel like I've eaten chalk?
I can still taste it now, yeah. Just like,
Can we put them over there?
can we just get rid of them? Yeah, okay, let's get rid of those now. But yes, so in the pyramid of snacks, we're probably... I'm just going to skip some of the
rungs.
Yeah, some of the rungs and just put it right down at the bottom.
Bottom left corner.
But it is nice to go international.
It is, yeah. I'm glad we did. And I think it's just, branching us out into so many more pub snacks. Thinking pub snacks around the world.
Yeah. Maybe we can get some nice ones like little pinchos from Spain or something,
Absolutely. Right, go on.
All right.
Done with
so
those.
we're gone from... So we're going to move from
I
the
can still
international...
smell them.
Yeah, and you'll still taste them later on this evening. So we're going to move from the international back to the local. All right,
Yeah.
so every week we do a little section to end up the podcast.
Yeah.
I know you dread this. So we're going to...
Well, we had a stupid section. And then last episode, we had quite a fun one because I got to talk. But I think, having a few weeks sections, we'll plug and play them as we go.
Yeah, so this week, because we're in Dundalk... and there's-
Dundalk, some people call it.
Some people do. Mon the town. But there is a very large distillery here, which I think deserves talking about.
Yeah, the Great Northern Distillery. Once the Great Northern Brewery, and then in 2015, it just changed the name. So what's the section? What do we have a name for the section, or are you going to call it something?
So are you familiar with the term hurlers on the ditch?
I know what a hurler is and I know what a ditch is.
Yeah, so essentially it's people standing on the ditch at a match, shouting in instructions. So it's like some fella who's 19 stone, who's never hurled in his life, who can't even run, and going, oh, hey, aren't you picking up the ball? Pass it in. So essentially...
Backseat driver.
Yeah, people who are totally unqualified to talk about something and talk about it.
That's perfect for us to talk about distilleries.
So we're going to call it Distillers on the Ditch.
I see what you did there.
So, Ro, we're going to talk about Ireland's largest independent distillery, Great Northern Distillery,
Or
was-
G&D, as
G&D,
we all
yeah.
call it in the biz.
in the biz, yeah.
In the biz.
And I think one of the funny things, Louth, is Ireland's smallest county. 2 distilleries. All right, so I think sometimes people confuse Cooley and G&D,
They do,
but
yeah.
G&D is around since 2015. Was started similarly to Cooley by John Teeling, who is, for anybody that doesn't know, you will probably know the Teeling name. So
Yeah, in Dublin, yeah.
Exactly. So his 2 sons set up Teeling in Dublin, obviously with his backing, but he set up G&D in 2015. All right, so G&D is a bit of a different distillery to a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, because I think for anyone who's watching this who doesn't really know Great Northern or G&D, they'll be like,
Or whiskey.
They'll be like, I've never drank a bottle of G&D in my life.
Well, if you've drank whiskey, you probably
drank
have.
G&D. Yeah, because it's huge.
Yeah, so it's the largest independent distillery. I think it might be the second largest distillery on the island. They are currently, to put it in bottle terms, doing about 1 million bottles a week.
And they're about to double
double that, yeah.
They're just putting in new stills.
So I think so it's the old Harp brewery. So I think initial investment was about 10 million. They've now put in another 25 million into it. So it's big business. So they're going to go up to 2 million bottles a week.
That is mad.
That is huge volume.
And again, yeah, with being so big, they don't have their own brand. They
Well, they do.
Yeah.
They do. They have Burke's and they have another Firstborn, I think is the name of the other one. But primarily what it was set up for, in the same way as Cooley was at the beginning, to be honest, is for white label, for supplying other brands, for supermarket stuff
bulk contract.
Bulk contracts,
whiskey,
exactly.
yeah.
Contract distilling, as we would call it. So a lot of the new brands in Ireland, they will get their whiskey from a distillery on the island, but at the moment, a lot of them are sourcing from G&D, and they make really, really tasty spirits.
Yeah.
So some of our favorite brands are sourced there, and the interesting thing is they do every style of whiskey, whatever you want. They will do it.
They
for you.
have it.
Yeah.
It's like, what, peated, double distilled.
Triple distilled, gin, grain. I think third largest grain distillery on the island, something like that.
But they also have really old stuff.
Yeah.
I know it's 2015, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but they actually do have old stock.
I mean, for the industry at the moment, the majority, I mean, if you look at the number of distilleries, right? So there's probably only 18, 19 distilleries at the moment with at least 3-year-old spirit.
Yeah.
There are 700 brands of whiskey thereabouts in Ireland. There are roughly 40 odd distilleries. It changes on a daily basis. Maybe there's 50 now. It could be a bit around 50.
Since this morning.
Since this morning, there could be 50. But there are only about, like I said, 18 distilleries maybe with 3-year-old spirit, which in order to be called whiskey, it needs to be 3 years old. So where does the rest of it come from, Ron?
Exactly. You know?
The rest of it comes from larger bulk distilleries like G&D, which is based here in Dundalk.
And because I suppose they're independently owned, that means they don't have to go through global rigmarole of that maybe other big distilleries have to, because they don't have parent companies in another country. It's just a board, or it's part of their business model to actually contract out.
No, and that's it. And that's why it was set up, because they saw the growth. They saw the way the growth was happening in Irish whiskey. So John Teeling has predicted, he said by 2030, Ireland will be at 30 million cases of whiskey annually. And that's across, look, a large proportion of that will be Jameson, but there's also space for a lot of other brands in that as well. So moving forward, somebody has to supply that. The whiskey has to come from somewhere. So they need to start increasing capacity now, because if at current capacity, we can't actually keep up with that kind of demand. So barring some sort of shock, barring some sort of downturn, that's where we're going. And it's an extremely successful business model. I think there's a couple of years of waiting list to get into, to get on the list of
For G&D.
For G&D.
And it is tasty. Like, they genuinely do know what they're doing. John Teeling, everything he has touched when it comes to whiskey seems to be going very well.
Yeah.
But for anyone who is getting confused, it is the dad of the Teeling brothers, but does not supply, like the Teeling family. We'll talk about them, I'm sure, in another episode, but they are their own distillery.
Yeah.
Great Northern are
Totally
different.
A separate entity, yeah. And for me, I think their peated malt actually is some of the best peated malt on the island, and they were they're one of the only distilleries with peated malt that are like 7-8 years old now. So that is quite cool. As a distillery, yeah, very cool. And it just it's a bit of a testament to where Irish whiskey is going, that we need to have a distillery just supplying bulk contracts. And when we say bulk contracts, we mean, if you're watching in the States or somewhere, if you go into, I think it's like Costco in the States, is it Kirkland, I think, is their brand? So like stuff like that, brands which, which aren't necessarily tied to a distillery will be supplied by G&D. There's lots of other brands.
And like cool bonders as well, it gives them a lot more playfulness. They might have sourced rare casks, and they might go to G&D for, maybe
Spirit.
a 10-year-old spirit or whiskey, and then they're like, cool, we're going to use our weird and wonderful cask to see what this plays in, and it gives a lot of flexibility for bonders.
Yeah, because if you look at how much it costs to set up a distillery, you're talking millions, right?
Okay.
Per still.
A legal distillery, by the way.
Legal distillery, yes. For anyone watching in Connemara, don't worry, we'll say nothing. But for a legal distillery, you can be talking, because it's a large copper still, you could be talking £1 million for a copper still. So that kind of initial investment for a small, and this is why a lot of the distilleries are backed by very large multinationals. So in Ireland now, you have, Brown-Forman, Pernod Ricard, Diageo, Beam Suntory, Bacardi, all the large global players are essentially here, because it is so expensive. Because you put down whiskey and you have to wait for at least 3 years, and even after 3 years, it might not necessarily be that good. So you have to wait another 3 years and another 3 years.
And there's other things like tax and VAT and warehousing and bonding and wood, and there's so much. But
they were actually turned down for warehousing. So I think they looked for more warehousing out in up in Louth, and they were turned down planning permission. But again, just shows the growth of Irish whiskey and where we're going, that we need all this space, we need all this whiskey.
And just to touch on it briefly, because I think it's such a bigger topic, but a lot of people might be listening to this and not realise that possibly their favourite Irish whiskey brand comes from a distillery that everyone else uses. But it's actually grand, because you're legally allowed to do it. As we just like to think, as long as you're a wee bit transparent, as long as you don't pretend.
Is everything grand? Is everything grand because you're legally allowed to do it? I think.
No, but on the label, there's some people they lean into distilled in Ireland, which is fine as well. But I think not miscommunicating or misleading the consumer.
Yeah, and I think consumers have become, from food to drinks to everything, consumers have become a lot more about transparency in recent years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that we have to be careful about in Irish whiskey, is that kind of transparent element. But a lot of the time, companies sign an NDA so they can't actually say where the whiskey comes from, which on the face of things is a bit ridiculous, right? Because until very recently, there's only 2 or 3 distilleries. So it's like,
Yeah, we know where
it's coming from.
Like, there's no point in redacting that name. Like, we know.
Yeah,
So, that's cool. So this was Distilleries on the Ditch, on the Ditch?
Distillers on the Ditch.
Distillers on the Ditch.
So I think we're going to go around the country, and I think as we go around, there are more local distilleries to places we're going to now.
Yeah.
Certainly more than there were before. Like I said, there's up around 50, but it is very hard to get an accurate map of who's actually distilling, when it's 3 years old, all that kind of stuff, because there is an Irish Whiskey Association, but not everybody is a member. So you have like a provisional Irish Whiskey Association as well. So there's a lot of stuff. So it can be quite difficult. But it is
But we're gonna find them. We're gonna talk about them.
And please, for the love of God, will you just get in touch with us? You know,
Yeah, do
'Cause
just
we
let
want
us
to talk.
know.
We want to talk about you.
We do. We're really friendly. We'll drink your hooch. But yeah, well, I think that's a nice wee gradual segue to the end of episode 4.
Yeah. Well done. We made it through again.
If you all enjoyed this one, which obviously you did,
Because we're in Dundalk. How would you not?
we also shoot loads of like random videos of the bars and outside. If you don't see them, do check them out. We're on every single social ever.
Yeah, we're on Truth Social, Snapchat.
Snapchat.
No, we're on Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Dan told us we're on Facebook because, you know, the older demographic like Facebook stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
And YouTube, Spotify,
obviously.
Spotify, and we're poordecisions.pod
.pod.
on essentially everything.
And yeah, so yeah, listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube.
Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your mom.
DM how wonderful we are. And a huge thank you to Mo Chara. This stunning venue. If you're in Dundalk, be here all the time because the guys are amazing. The food is great, the beer's great, the vibe is great.
And let's be honest, where else would you go in Dundalk?
Yeah, like the Jade Garden.
The Jade Garden, yeah.
It's a great Chinese, but
No, but seriously, big shout out to the lads. It was organised chaos, I think, is what it was.
it was, yeah, brought us to a new level.
But yeah, I feel like our shepherding and herding skills have really come along a lot.
We're doing well. Yeah. Well, as I say, you know, why would you be in Dundalk? It's called Fun Dock.
For a reason.
Absolutely. Or as we say, now you're Dundalk and
Sláinte.
Sláinte.